Hello there, and welcome to day 75 of A Film a Day with me, Jordan Woodley. And we are now into the deep dive of the Oscar season. The nominations were announced yesterday. And before I go into the film, I do want to slightly point out my frustration. This is probably the first year where in the time that I've been covering Oscar films, and I've tried to make sure I've watched as much of Oscar-nominated and Oscar-winning films as possible. But this is the first year where, of the Best Picture nominees, to date, I have seen 3. And the other 5 are currently unavailable to me. Now, obviously, this is to do with the pandemic and distribution and, possibly some distributors holding out for theatrical releases and just the difficulty of how's best to release these films. However, with still 5 of the Best Pictures to be seen, it's quite the challenge, really, and as I say, it's quite frustrating to know that I've got quite a month or two ahead of me to catch up on a heck of a lot of films. But here we are. I have covered my third after Mank and Trial of the Chicago 7. My third Best Picture nominee, Judas and the Black Messiah. This film was also nominated for Best Cinematography, Best Original Screenplay, and most baffling of all, Best Supporting Actor for both Lakeith Stanfield and Daniel Kaluuya. Which is odd, considering one of those actors is technically the lead, and I'll dive into that shortly. But yes, this is the story. This is the story of Bill O'Neill, who was, and again, this is based on historical, on true events. Bill O'Neill was an FBI informant who was tasked with infiltrating the Black Panther Party to report back to the FBI, who themselves were concerned that the Black Panthers were preparing for some kind of military or terrorist action against them. And it's very, it's a very powerful character piece, particularly Daniel Kaluuya's character Fred Hampton, who was the chairman of the Black Panther Party. And the relationship between Fred Hampton and Bill O'Neill, and how one stood for his ideas and fought in spite of all the personal cost to him for something that was with great intention, and the other struggled and grappled with the fact that he is not. It's unclear whether he knows he's fighting for the right reasons. That when you first meet him, he's a car thief, and that's the reason the FBI have recruited him, because he has no seeming allegiance to the Black Panther Party, and of course they've got him on those charges. And as he enters the group, it becomes like one of those kinds of infiltration films where the character questions their own motives, questions their own ideas, and how that changes them. Interestingly enough, as I've said in previous videos, American history is not something that I have a first-hand knowledge of in any way. I wasn't taught it at school, or at least I was only taught it from a British history perspective. So as I learn more nuggets of 20th century American history, particularly black history, I'm only coming at this from the perspective of someone who is learning this fresh. Now, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X were both figures who I was well aware of. And their ideologies were quite clear to me. Malcolm X was very much about building... So all of this is about how best to overcome the governmental oppression and the societal oppression of black people within America. Now, with Malcolm X, it was a case of building a separate state and separating the black community from the general American community and the ideals of the black community becoming their own. So stripping back, things that the white American valued, like Christianity. So Malcolm X and his follower and his people believed, okay, to separate ourselves, we should go for something like Islam. And many of them converted, including Muhammad Ali. And the idea that they, anyone who is not white, that's South Americans, Arabs, anyone who is dark-skinned would be considered black. And again, to build this state that is separate and autonomous from the American government. And that fell in on itself because the idea became... because being black and being non-white is not the same thing, and to try to bring so many different people with so many different perspectives under one ideology, and to try to bring black people who are against that, things like converting to Islam, into that ideology was too much of a task, and it created friction between Malcolm X and other leaders of that group, and again, and consequently, it allowed Malcolm X to be vulnerable and assassinated. You have Martin Luther King, who was much more about using the tools of the American government system of the Constitution and manipulating them to best lift black people. So that was very much about doing as much as you can within the law and within the Constitution, and making the people who are against civil rights for black people the enemy, both politically and socially, to then turn the minds of the majority. And again, that didn't... Well, it to some degree it worked, and it had progress, but again, Martin Luther King was assassinated. And what this film really starts out as is the idea that both of these ideologies were so pinned to these men that with their deaths, the ideologies themselves died. Now, it's more complicated than that, but that's the crux of it. And the Black Panther Party had been running for some years. We even got a reference to Bobby Seale, who, if you're wanting a nice 2021 two-hander, this and the Trial of the Chicago 7, of course, which features Bobby Seale as a character, really sort of flesh out the where the Black Panther Party are at that time. But the idea is that there shouldn't be a leader, a figurehead in that way, and that the Black Panther Party should be across America, and that if one person who leads it dies, another will rise up. There are chapters, and it becomes its own thing. Now, I was aware of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. I knew of the Black Panthers, but I always believed that they were some kind of anti-police militia, which is true to some degree, that they were policing the police on how they treated black people and defending black people against police abuse. But there is more to it than that. And what Fred Hampton is trying to do at this point in history is to try to use the Black Panther Party to essentially infiltrate, to unite the black community like Malcolm X intended, but not just to police the police, but also to separate things like teaching and healthcare, and then also bring in poor people from poor white people, so that there comes a point when the Black Panther Party becomes a recognised political party, and it has an infrastructure within the whole system that can't be put down. As the trailer stated, and there's a prominent scene in the film, you can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill a revolution. You can kill a liberator, but you can't kill liberation. And the idea is that's how it would become strong. But the problem is, and this is the crux of the problem, which is that Fred Hampton became this black messiah for the Black Panther Party, that he was, becoming the figurehead that was uniting them and empowering them, and like Malcolm and like Martin Luther before him, his ability to be charismatic and have powerful leadership skills was uniting the Black Panther Party, and that was what the FBI were afraid of. And they were afraid, and to some degree there is, you have Bill O'Neill's handler, who is who is portrayed as someone who is trying to who perceives the Black Panther. He's doing his job, and his argument against the Black Panthers is that they are a militia, and there is the risk that they could become a terrorist organisation. That militias, in spite of the best intentions, can fall apart and can lead to unwarranted violence, and that's the thing he's trying to instill in Bill. And their friendship is portrayed, and you see that, and you see this FBI guy who is just trying to do his job, but again in an FBI system that is inherently racist. And you have the director of the FBI, and a scene with the director of the FBI who is unquestionably racist, and other FBI agents who are handling other FBI, other informants inside the Black Panther Party. And again, it's the legitimate concern about this organisation, coupled with the racist belief that black people should not get that much power, and that has to be kept down. And so what you end up seeing in this film is the idea that the Black Panthers, in spite of their best intentions, because of the FBI and because of the constant battling that they're having to do, they are being pushed to becoming more paramilitary and more aggressive. And when Fred Hampton at one stage goes to prison, you see the fractures where they appear and where the dangers appear, and where well-strategized, well-intentioned political maneuvering could easily break down into just raw violence. And this is a very powerful film, and it's talking about very powerful things, and I learned a lot about this from this film. And again, this is a film, so it warrants going away to read about and research on, but the raw experience of it was powerful and interesting. And again, Daniel Kaluuya just gives this incredible performance as Fred Hampton, who just, it reminds me back it reminds me with Selma, and how powerful Martin Luther was in Selma. And it was a film that really turned my head and really made me want to watch more politically charged films, particularly about black history. And similarly, this film really does give that sense of a figure like Fred Hampton and how powerful he is as a character. And this is an excellent film. It's shot fantastically. As I say, it's been nominated for Best Cinematography for, what's his name? Sean Bobbitt, who, looking him up, I mean, I've seen his other work, including things like 12 Years a Slave and Shame, and he has a style to him that's and Widows as well. And again, there's a style and a look, and that's very much in keeping with his previous films. Now this Shaka King, who directed the film, he's not an experienced features director. This is one of his only features, but he does so much and such. You know, this is very much coming out the gate. You know, with some real power, because he is genuinely. This is a great and well directed film, and it's, as I say, it's trying to do a lot, and I think it's very powerful in that sense. And as I say, your leads are just, you know, if we call Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield, both of which, one or other or both your leads, they both give very different, very powerful performances. And again, it's a shame that they somehow have been nominated both for supporting actor, but hey, I definitely think one or other of them will definitely win. So, 3 Oscar films down for Best Picture, 5 to go, and then of course all of the other categories. My main target tends to be to cover your big 5, that's picture, lead actor and actress, supporting actor and actress, and director, and then as much as the rest as I can, but those are my main 5 I want to hit. Of the Best Pictures, this is going to be a tough year. Unfortunately, I have concerns that Mank is pushing ahead, considering the huge amount of nominations it's had. And unfortunately, I'm not feeling that. I'm really not. Of those 3, it's my least interesting. It's the one I have the least interesting in the 3. But it's a film about Hollywood, and consequently that's going to bump it up. But we'll see. It's a long road ahead, and I've still got 5 more of these films to watch as and when they come out. Anyway, thank you for joining me. You can, if you could, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel for when further videos are uploaded, and click that little bell so that you get notifications when I upload a new video. If you could also share my videos and go through some of my older ones, there is quite a few of them now. And if you could follow me on Twitter at Jordan_Woodley. I post every day with links to the new videos. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Take care.